Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Sports Exchange. Just follow No Limits. Great show with Jennifer Lee Cobb. Jennifer does a great job speaking out against Parkinson's, and I'll tell you what, we're looking forward to having her on more often. In fact, tonight she told me she wants to do 2 of those episodes a month, and that more than suits me fine. But meanwhile, on to the Sports Exchange, got our dream team for the night. Over to my left, Candy Ebling. Welcome back, Candy.
Thanks, Scott. Great to be here.
And to my left is Candy. The other right is Jacob Christner.
Now, I mean, don't confuse us.
I just said one to the left, one to the right, and that's Jacob. Okay, below is George Eichhorn.
Hi, I'm over here in this square number here.
Yeah,
And if you really confuse him, you got a problem, buddy.
Yeah, no, I'm past that, trying to get all the directions right with this. And last but not least, JB Ellis. Welcome back, JB.
What's going on, guys?
Glad to have you. We're going to have a good time tonight. All right, we're going to lead off with the New York Yankees. They're 59 and 55 in the 4th place AL East. The question is, does Aaron Boone's ejection seem to be getting really out of control? Is it time for this guy to get fired? My gosh, he doesn't have the latitude like an Earl Weaver, Bobby Cox, or Billy Martin that you can keep getting thrown out all the time. I mean, give me a break. So with that said, I'll go over to Jacob.
It's entertaining. And it's entertaining. It does remind you of Billy Martin a little bit. And he's probably doing that just because. But it's not just the ejections. It's the fact that the New York Yankees cannot be that far down this late. You can't, not in the Yankeeville. You just can't. And they're not leading to any significant amount of wins. So that's the big issue with it. So he's really going to have to go. If he's going to stay the rest of the year, he can be as entertaining as he wants to be. But they don't get any more than 3rd place anyway, so it's done.
I mean, this guy's literally melting down. He really is, JB.
Well, you can't blame it. You can't blame it.
No.
Got a leadoff hitter. Their leadoff hitter is hitting 228. Their catcher 227. The shortstop 205. Stanton's hitting 203. Judge was out for how long? I mean, it's a bad team. This is not a very talented team. I saw him last night at Guaranteed Rate Trash Can. Horrible park. Worst park I've ever seen in baseball. It makes Shea Stadium look luxurious, which doesn't exist anymore. And considering how new it is, it's pretty embarrassing, but we'll get to that later. It's just a bad team. They've spent a lot of money on guys that are either hurt with Judge, who's been hurt for how long, or Stanton, who can't hit. He struck out looking on a great pitch. He can't hit a fastball lately. I don't know what's going on with him. Their team is just not good. And it's a shame to see when you spend all that money. And Boone is just not a very good manager. He hasn't been that good since they hired him. It's time to go in a different direction. There's a guy I know you love, Scott, and I would love to see manage the team, and I don't know why he hasn't gotten the job yet. He probably wouldn't come mid-season, so you probably got to wait till the end of the year. But it doesn't look like they're making the playoffs this year. And there's only one thing that matters for Yankee fans. It's number 28. And we're not getting it even if we make the playoffs, so it's a wasted year already.
Yeah, so that person you're referring to is the obvious Don Mattingly, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, Don.
No, he met Joe Girardi.
We've been there already. No, thank you.
No, I mean, Don Mattingly should be the next manager. I'll always be biased toward Don anyways. I don't care. All right, go ahead, George.
Hey, listen, Laz Diaz, to me, is one of the best umpires in baseball. And what he did to show him up the other day was just disgusting. He's lost it. I agree. He's lost it. He's going crazy. He's doing foolish things to get ejected and showing up the umps and everything else that goes with it. JB hit it right on the head. I mean, they got guys, and Jacob, they got guys in that lineup that, don't belong there. I mean, I hate to say it, but it's like a Detroit Tigers lineup where we got guys hitting 220, 210, 205, and that's not the Yankees. I mean, we got our own problems with baseball here in Detroit, but the Yankees, no, that's not acceptable. That's not acceptable. And especially in the AL East, when we know how damn competitive it is. As far as I'm concerned, they ought to railroad Cashman and Boone out of there as soon as the season is over. It's a shame what's happened to that organization this year. And obviously the talent is not there. drop-offs by so many of the players they counted on. But again, the roster was not, like you said, it was not full of enough talent, enough hitters and pitchers, obviously.
Candy.
In a day and age where we pay millions of dollars to sports figures, we think that these veteran players that have deserved good contracts, but that they're always going to perform. And we talk about hitters and batting averages in the 200s. I recently heard, and I don't remember, Scott, I know it was on one of your shows, and I think it was a little while back, where someone said that hitting has not kept up with pitching, and that pitchers are way ahead of the hitters. And it just makes, I mean, a historic franchise like the New York Yankees, who have spent millions of dollars, they have some of the highest paid talent. And I'm not saying that that talent is good talent anymore, but some of the highest paid talent isn't keeping up with the pitchers. I mean, like, let's face it, Shohei Ohtani is a once in a lifetime player, right? But look what he's doing on both sides of the ball. I wonder why his batting is so good. Is it because he's a good pitcher and he knows the ins and outs from being a pitcher?
Possibly, but here's the thing. The one thing I say about this is telling you where the Yankees are, even when they made the ALCS recently. It's tell you where they're at. For about 2 decades, maybe 25 years. For that amount of time, you have a guy like Shohei Ohtani around, it's almost guaranteed he's going to the Yankees. It's almost guaranteed. Now we're talking, it could be any of a number of teams. It could, I mean, say a Suzuki's of the Cubs. It could be that if they keep going well. It could be any of those Orioles. I mean, it could be anyone now. And that tells you how far the Yankees have fallen when they're not a number one or a guarantee.
But that also tells you how far the other teams have come too. Yeah. And that, you know, I think that's better for the game, because I think that means that there's more teams out there. There's more teams in it, as opposed to always hearing, oh, it's always the Yankees. It's always the Yankees. Should Boone get the axe? I think his antics, when I saw what he did to the ref and that theatrical whatever display, he's had managers call him and say, what was that? Like, right. You're on display. You have so many people out in the stands, out in the TV audience watching that. Like, you have kids even. What kind of role model is that?
Exactly. You know, and like I said, you know, he's showing up umpires. He's acting immature.
There's a right way and a wrong way to discuss, hey, I don't agree with that call.
Yep.
And I get it, but theatrics, I think it took it to a level that he shouldn't have taken it to. And even he admits it.
Well, you know what, Candy, the key word that you said is antics. Go ahead, JB.
No, it's one thing to argue. I mean, you know, you're paid to defend your team and argue calls if they're wrong. It's another thing to act like a petulant child who can't do his job. And he hasn't been able to do his job all year. That's why they're in second to last place, virtually last place, you know, with a Boston team that's not nearly as talented as what the roster the Yankees have.
Right.
It's disgraceful. It's a joke.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to pull the Don Mattingly way anyhow, and I hope that. And Brian Cashman, though, does deserve a lot of criticism for what's taken place as well. I hate to say this, but a guy that I really like, DJ LeMahieu, has certainly underperformed. But I had the good fortune of interviewing DJ LeMahieu when he was playing for the Colorado Rockies. It's from the Detroit area. So,
yep.
One point before we go on to the thing I wanted to say, we think about like no Aaron Judge for that long, you know, and you think about this and it's like just how bad of a manager is Aaron Boone because there was Aaron Judge. And it's like, then you think about like, say, a Dusty Baker and that kind of bit, who's had the injuries that he's had that Aaron Boone just had. He's had many of them over 25 years, many, or 28 or whatever. He's had many of these things. And guess what? He just worked around it. He's over 2,000 wins. Just kept going. Won division titles with many injuries, everything like that. that is what managing is. It's not just placing your best player in there. It's like you've got to adapt. It's obvious he's not adapting.
Well, baseball's a 162 game season. Injuries going to happen all day long. Question
Yeah.
is how you deal with them. And that's what some teams make out better. Listen, even the Miami Marlins for a period of time lost a lot of arms, but they're still hanging in there. We'll see what happens later on. Next topic, UNC, Kansas schedule regular season games for 2024-25. The first meeting will be November 8th, 2024 in Lawrence, Kansas. The second, November 14th, 2025 in Chapel Hill. All right, Jacob, to me, this is undoubtedly the Roy Williams Bowl. But no, really, these two programs, Larry Brown is coach at both. These are just unbelievable programs. And I'm glad to see that they're going to be playing in the regular season a couple of years out. What do you think?
Like you said, the biggest thing about it is I've been having, I admit this, I've been having system issues because your sound went down from my end. Can you repeat that? I want to make sure. That's all. Say
Sure,
that
no problem. I'll go over it again. UNC, Kansas are scheduling regular season games for 24-25. First meeting will be November 8th of 24 in Lawrence, Kansas, while the second one will be November 14th, 25 in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. What are your thoughts about these two teams playing back-to-back years?
That's classic. I mean, these are classics. And it's like the biggest thing about it is the fact the only thing I don't like about it is it's not the 90s or the early 2000s. Only thing is because most of the time now you're seeing one and dones. It's still great programs. It's still going to be great ball games, but it's one and done players. These are the type where you want to see. I'm just going to give it as an 80. I'm going to say you want to see Danny Ferry. You want to see Jerry Stackhouse. You want to see them. I'm just using Duke and Carolina, but you get my point. You want to see Danny Manning. You want to see these players play 2 or 3 straight years against each other for a kind of a game like that. So you're really not going to get that anymore. It's one and done. But the biggest thing about it is it's ratings. It is ratings, and it's going to get, well, whether it's on ESPN or CBS or any of those things, you want those right off the bat. You don't want the crappy. You don't want the Jacksonville School for the Blind in game 2 or 3. You want the big games right off the bat, especially for television.
Okay, JB.
One of the things you have to thank Gonzaga for, back when they were having trouble getting into the tournament if they didn't win their conference, they started scheduling everybody they could on their schedule, and you saw bigger teams start to play each other more. Then ESPN did the whole thing with having the big games at the beginning of the year. And now it's more commonplace for these top-notch schools to play each other, and it's a great thing to see. I wish that more of these types of games outside the conference. There's nothing better than having 2 good teams play. It just makes the season even better.
Well, I'll say one thing before I turn it over to George. Michigan State and Tom Izzo do a great job scheduling these marquee opponents. I mean, Tom Izzo doesn't care. He'll play the Blue Bloods all day long. And now I'll turn over to George.
Great minds think alike, Scott. That
Yeah,
was one of 2 points I was going to make. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I mean, Izzo has done this, as you guys know, for years and years and years to toughen his boys up, to make them ready for the NCAA tournament, Big Ten tournament, postseason. Izzo has a magic formula that way, and I really like it. And I know he gets a lot of respect around college basketball for doing that kind of scheduling. My only thing is, what took them so long, Kansas and NC? What took you guys so long? And of course, money talks. Of course, television contracts talk. But I mean, my God, these are 2 of the greatest programs of all time. They should be meeting on a not every year, but semi-routine basis, unless they're playing each other, obviously, in the postseason. That's different. But yeah, I'm very glad to hear about this. But take a clue from our boy in East Lansing, and he's been doing it for years. That's all I can say.
Well, Izzo, the thing about Izzo is if it wasn't for the deals that they make with these mid schools, but to be able to give them the money to be able to, I mean, there are, boosters out there, there's deals. If it wasn't for that, he'd probably play Blue Bloods every single time.
Yeah.
All right, we'll turn it over to Candy.
I think it's just good for the game. Let's face it. These college towns, they're historic. And I think I think football could almost take a step back and say, you know what? Because when you look at football, they play when they're doing their preseason, they're playing their games when what they're winning 77-0. Instead, they should start playing some more quality too, because I think basketball is getting it right by putting two historic franchises playing. Yes, is it all about money? Of course it is, because let's face it, money is driving and it's driving all of this to start. They need to pay. They need the money to pay for all these NIL contracts and stuff like that. So, is it good for the game? Of course it is, but it is money driven.
Okay. Well, you know what? On this date, August 9th, 1988, Wayne Gretzky was traded to the LA Kings. My goodness. The trade heard around the world and then some. And then some. Jacob, Wayne Gretzky in LA. My goodness. Or in the words of Dick Enberg. Oh my. Okay, well, I don't know if
Oh
I can.
my! Yeah.
Hello, Tori Harmon. Waiting to hear from you. Okay.
I was 9-10 years old when that happened, and I was like, I literally a jaw dropped. It's like he's Edmonton, he is Edmonton. That's what he is. It's like it's forever. You don't expect, and the Kings people waking up in the morning. It's like what? No, you're messing with. No, but the thing about it is it changed hockey forever because it gave everybody a chance. It gave everybody a chance. You weren't going to ever – you got to realize a few years later, Messier went to the after he got his final Stanley Cup with the Oilers. I think it was 90. He went to the Rangers. It's like he went to the Rangers. You got all these players. It's like years later, you'd get Gretzky go to the Blues for a rental with Hull and Shanahan and all of them. Which I was the teenager going, woohoo, we're going to take it now. Of course not. And Gretzky gets picked and double overtime. But it's like he goes, which you would never believe a guy of the caliber of Gretzky would go to St. Louis, a smaller town like St. Louis. But that whole trade made every part of that possible. I mean, it was a domino effect. And that was forever. And it was basically because Peter Pocklington. It was Peter Pocklington, and every which way, and everything with his money, and they threatened his life. They threatened his child. They threatened everything, his house. They threatened everything because he did that. No one could believe it.
But yet, the Edmonton Oilers won a Stanley Cup.
As I said, 90.
So there you go. All right, JB, we've left a fillet here. What do you want to put on this fillet?
So, I mean, listen, Wayne Gretzky was hockey at that point in 1988. Hockey was a dead sport. It's still not the most popular sport. What better way to bring up hockey than have the best player in one of the biggest markets? It was great for the game. It's horrible for the sport, great for the game. Because you don't want to see a guy, and Edmonton had great success when him and Messier and that team was together. But you don't ever want to see that guy leave. But at the same time, you need a league. And him going to LA just enhances the image of the league. You have him in one of the nicest cities in the world. Weather's always great. You try to get people to come watch hockey. And he's in one of the biggest markets in the game now. So I get it. I don't know much of the backstory as far as the Edmonton owner. As like Jacob, I was a young kid when that happened. But I see all the reasons why it was great for the NHL and great for Gretzky.
George?
Yeah, I was just as surprised, Scott, as everyone was. I mean, like you said, JB, I mean, he was Mr. Edmonton, Mr. Oiler. And I thought, back in those days, teams tried their best to keep guys around, obviously, as long as they could. Of course, he had a great success. I'm not discounting that. In Edmonton, that was great for hockey, especially Canadian hockey. But you're right. I mean, other than New York, the top market, obviously LA. And the Kings, I believe Jerry Buss, didn't he own them at the time?
At that time, I believe Bruce McNall did.
Oh, Bruce. Okay. Okay.
Was that did Jerry did he buy it after then, or did he buy it before and he was traded to McNall? And sold it to McNall.
Well, I believe McNall came after Buss, if I remember right.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. I couldn't remember. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
I don't. Yeah,
yeah, needless to say, they needed a bundle of money, and obviously to make this happen. And but of course, he fit right in with his gold locks and the Hollywood scene and everything like that. I mean, obviously, when you think of L.A., you think of somebody like him going there. You think of a Magic Johnson going to L.A. You think of well, now to a certain extent, Matthew Stafford, but I was quite surprised. Obviously, the Canadian audience was really upset. I can remember the guys on Hockey Night in Canada, their weekly show, talking about the fact that he would skip town and go down to Southern California. But all that being said, we had many years with Gordie Howe here in Detroit. Even he ended up going with another team, the Whalers. So I mean, and then the Houston Aeros of the WHA and all that. So it's not surprising nowadays. Superstars do move around, especially the last. Gretzky was still in his prime when he moved around. A lot of them wait, as we know, till the end of their careers. But yeah, it was quite a momentous occasion. Like you said, hockey was really trying to put its best foot forward back then.
Well, just think of it this way: it turned Janet Jones from a sixth-rated actress to a fifth.
Yeah.
But I heard you'll be able to go to LA full time.
All right, Candy. I know University of Wisconsin has a great hockey program, but what are your thoughts about this?
The trade, which caused chaos in Edmonton and left all of Canada in disbelief, redefined player movement throughout sports. Every trade made in its wake, no matter how monstrous or unthinkable, could now be explained logically. Well, if Wayne Gretzky can be traded, anybody can be traded.
Yeah.
None of that, though, made the day of the trade any less surreal. Gretzky Oilers owner Peter Plockington and coach general manager Glenn Sather sat for a hear a pin drop press conference, trying to explain to many what was unexplainable. Gretzky dissolved in tears as he spoke. I'm disappointed with leaving Edmonton. I enjoyed living here and I love the fans, he said. He was too choked up. He goes, I told Oilers I wouldn't do this, but he choked up by emotion. There comes a time when and he left the press conference because he couldn't continue on because he was so emotional as well. But let's face it, there have been how many people that have left, big names that have left big teams to move on. I mean, in all the sports, it happens. Teams need to move on sometimes because they need young players. They need to unload contracts because they're not going to be able to afford contracts going forward. It's the nature of the business, unfortunately.
Yeah, you know, the amazing part about all of this, okay, Wayne Gretzky going to LA opened up markets in Phoenix as well as the West Coast.
The South
But you know
and the
who
West. Yep.
But yet, you know who I still think the best coach in LA Kings history is? Marcel Dion.
Mm-hmm. No, you know how shocking it was.
Marcel Dion, you ever heard of him, Jamie?
Talked about it. Is when Wayne was retiring and he was at the Rangers. I am shocked that he didn't go one more year, say goodbye to the Oilers, and go back one more year.
Yeah. Marcel Dion and me left Detroit, went to L.A., and had an incredible career with the Kings.
Oh, that was a big loss, Scott, for the Red Wings. That's a whole nother story.
Yeah, but these guys don't know our story. I'm just saying the best player I think in LA Kings history is Marcel Dion. I'll leave it at that. But the one guy who could not do anything for hockey in Arizona was Wayne Gretzky because he went there. So with that said, the Arizona Coyotes owner, chairman, and governor Alex Morello has executed a letter of intent to purchase a parcel of land located in Mesa, Arizona, to take a potential site for a sports arena and entertainment district for the club. Is there a reason for optimism, Jacob Christner? Okay, that the Coyotes will stay there. I don't know what the background noise is, but I'm trying to compete with it.
That was part of the last question about the thing that I was listening. But yeah, I heard this one. No, not really. The entertainment thing, that's for the owner. That's truly for the owner. It gives them a couple, 3 years. That's for the owner. Remember, I've been talking about over and over about different things, that it's real estate now with the ownerships. that make all of this. That's what helps with all this. But that keeps them there a couple, 3 years, 4 years, whatever. But it's not going to do any good as far as because if they're bad, the fans will not be there. Fans are just not going to go regardless of the thing. It's going to keep their attention for a minute. But you got to remember everybody's attention. You got to realize at ball games now and at hockey games, at baseball games, they are looking at their phones now. You don't get the same. Like, I remember when the Cubs won the World Series, I'd rather have been in 2003 when that place was caving in. You know what I'm talking about, JB. When the place was caving in from a Kerry Wood homer or Moise Alou in Game 7. I'd rather they would have won it then. It was wonderful in 16, but people were doing this all the time. So everybody is so attached and they are so distracted that if they're not winning, no one's going to care.
Okay. And before I go to JB, I just want to make sure I get this out there. The Sports Exchange is being broadcast around the world. The audio version of the Sports Exchange can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcast. Please hit the red subscribe buttons on YouTube, South Florida Tribune. We're striving for 1,000 subscribers. Please also comment, like, and share the broadcast. Want to be a guest? Feel free to comment in the chat room. That's one way to do it. Send topic ideas to South Florida Tribune at gmail.com. If you want to advertise cost efficiently, call me at 954-304-4941. We broadcast live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Our website is www.southfloridatribune.com. Our Twitter information is at Tribune South. Candy Ebling is normally behind the scenes, but she's with us tonight. All right, JB, I'll turn this question over to you about the Coyotes and Mesa. Will it happen?
Yeah, probably not. The Coyotes are such a disorganized franchise. Nothing seems to go right for them. I think the best thing for Arizona is to move. Right. I don't think they care enough about hockey. Spending all that money on an arena that they don't need because they already have the Talking Stick Arena, if it's still called that, in downtown Phoenix. You're going to spend all that money on an arena in Mesa for a team that's not going to draw enough fans anyway. Just move somewhere where they want to have the team and hopefully try and put together a winner so that the owner will make money and they can put together the right team and do well.
Quebec.
I just don't think it makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, they botched that situation in Glendale so bad. They really did. Candy and I went to a game one time. I saw nothing wrong with the arena. I really didn't. But I understand, being a former Phoenix resident as I was, that going from the East Valley and the West Valley is a long drive. And you guys saw Super Bowl out there, so it's not easy. It's a very big city spread out. George?
Yeah, Scott, you and I have talked about this situation with the Coyotes for various reasons over the years. And I can't put much credence. I'm sorry. They have let people down so many times. Next to the Oakland Athletics situation, I think it is the worst, obviously, that Gary Bettman and the NHL governors are dealing with right now, because I agree with you, JB. I think they'd be better off folding up the tent, moving somewhere that really wants them. Hey, trust me, I know it's hot down there, okay? And obviously the Cardinals and obviously the Phoenix Suns and, the Arizona Diamondbacks, they got 3 pro teams. I mean, they got 3 good teams most of the time. Not champions, but, they got 3 good teams. And I just think, the hockey's been the odd man out, the odd team out over there for a good number of years. I mean, there's some interest, obviously, but it's kind of, I relate it to the Atlanta situation where twice they went to Atlanta, the NHL, and it failed both times. So I don't think so, Scott. I think Mesa's going to fall through. I mean, they're buying themselves some time, but the better they get out of there, the sooner, they get out of there, the better it's going to be into a city that will really welcome and love them.
Yeah, but the real problem is they've been awful on the ice. They really have. I mean,
the product.
How do you expect a team to get embraced when they're bad every year and they keep shedding good players? You can't expect anybody to catch on with that. You really can't. But I understand, the honeymoon period never began because they moved into the wrong arena in the first place. And I've written about this. I've always said that the Coyotes should have moved into the Arizona Memorial Coliseum, the former home of the Phoenix Suns, instead of where they moved in. That was a worst arena, America West, for them to even be there. And the PR and I were at odds. And obviously I never went back after the second time because that stadium was awful. I mean, it was really bad. So yeah, it's been dysfunctional from the beginning. But how do you expect a team to embrace you when you're losing all the time? You just can't. How
Well,
much can you take?
Well, Scott, you brought it up. Your very, very early point, bringing it up about the place has all the stuff around it, all the amenities, all the distractions, all the everything, like you were bringing up
Right.
earlier.
Yeah.
You have to say something like that to try to get them because they don't have the wins and they don't have the teams and they don't have all that. And it's like I said, it would be a 3-4 year delay to be
Right.
able to go before you go to a quote unquote Quebec or wherever it's going to go or whatever you could do. It's going to it's going to be that way. And then you want to know something? That whole district, the owner's still going to make his money off of it. That's the thing. It's all real estate. It's like even if he goes, they're going to make money off that because he owns that real estate around that. So that's all that's going to be is when you bring that up because it's sure. Yeah, you couldn't have a situation like in Miami with the Marlins. You don't have a lot around you. You couldn't have that over there because
Right.
no one would agree with it.
Okay. I mean, Katie, well, we've been in Arizona. We were at that
So
old arena.
we have. He executed a letter of intent to buy. The move comes months after voters in Tempe rejected a referendum to construct an arena there. Now, if you had such big fans and you were so drawn and the market is so good, then tell me why you are starting your second season at a 5,000 seat max arena. If you wouldn't settle for that. If you were a really good team and could draw and you wanted to make a lot of money, because let's face it, that's what you're supposed to be doing when you're a team. You want to go to the biggest avenue and have the biggest arena, not a 5,000. And this is the
Yeah,
second season you're going to
right.
play in a 5,000 seat arena.
You realize the MLS, which is still growing, wouldn't put a team in a 5,000 seat arena. The NHL is one of the big four, and they have one of their teams playing in a 5,000 seat. That's a disgrace.
It is. Absolutely.
Praise,
Phoenix has
laughable,
had a
come up
team
with any
since
word you want.
Phoenix has had a team since 1996 when they came from Winnipeg. They are now in their fourth stadium?
I think third.
Well, they played in Phoenix, downtown Phoenix, Glendale, and Tempe, and now they're
Right.
in
Yeah,
the
they're in
mall.
Tempe. Yeah, right. No, they're third. But you know
Third.
what? That situation's laughable, JB. That's all I can tell you. I mean,
It's horrible.
yeah.
That
I mean,
5,000 seat arena that looks
now
like one of those story modes. And I'm sorry, go ahead.
you're gouging people with a 5,000 arena. I'm just anxious to see what Gary Bettman has to say about this. I mean, he's done. To Bettman's credit, he's done everything he can to keep hockey in Arizona. But at some point, when you throw in the white towel, the owner doesn't want to do it, yo. He wants to still stay there. That's the thing, and you can't tell him to go if he's willing to try anything. But at some point, something's got to happen. We'll keep an eye on this story as it progresses. Because if anybody ever needs to laugh at something, look at the Arizona Coyotes situation, and there's your laugh of the day. Okay.
Yeah,
And
this
if you want me
5,000
to go
seat
ahead,
arena. The 5,000 seat arena looks like one of those story modes in a video game where you've moved up to that next arena and you moved up to the next team in the minor leagues before you get to the big time.
yeah. Let me just say this. Let's have a little fun with this, okay? It's not like the Jeffersons where we are moving in a deluxe apartment in the sky, whatever you call it, whatever. I don't know where I came up with that one, but boy, it just seemed good to get it out there. And my partner Edwin Hernandez, he never knows where they come from either, so don't feel too bad. Only Candy can tell you that. All right, next topic. Former Mavs coach Rick Carlisle thinks that Luka Doncic will win the MVP this season. Is this too premature, Jacob?
Yes, because they're already talking about. You already have Kyrie, you already have that, and they're already talking about trying to get Harden to Dallas, which would be three guys that want to hold the ball, three guys that don't want to pass it, three guys that it's going to be a mess out there. And as far as MVP, you got to remember a lot of these the guys that go to MVP and stuff. It's not going to be a 43-39 team or 42-40. That's the issue, and that's really what they are. I think he's closer to leaving Dallas than he is getting MVP.
JB?
MVP, sixth man, coach of the year, all means nothing. Give me the Larry O'Brien trophy at the end of the year. That's what matters. Do I want to see Luka play, 70 to 82 games? Yeah, because he's fun to watch.
Yep.
Do I care if he wins MVP? No, Durant's an MVP. Durant runs away from every challenge he's ever been in. He couldn't stay in Brooklyn because, he can't play hard. Harden's not good enough for him. Kyrie, the guys he wanted weren't good enough to win a championship. So let's run away again. Now he's defeated. He's an MVP. I don't want to be part of that group. I hope Luka doesn't. I want to be part of the group like Steph Curry that cares about winning championships. LeBron James, as much as I dislike him, he cares about getting that trophy at the end of the year. Nothing else matters. MVP means nothing. Who cares?
Yeah, I like Rick Carlisle. I've worked with him before. Great coach, won a championship, but this is one time where we disagree. All right, George.
Yeah, I agree, JB. And guys, these individual awards, okay, I know there's incentives written into their contracts for all-star games, Pro Bowl games, league trophies and all that stuff, but I could care less right now. I mean, yeah, he's a great player, and yeah, they have a good chance to win with him, but there's so many other great players out there too. I mean, and you got to put the personal stuff aside sometime. If you really want to be a team, as they say, there's no I in team, and you really need to just focus on clicking as a unit, as a team, as a rotation in and out of the lineup, whatever the coaching staff designs, the plays, the winning plays, you want that first. That's first priority, getting the W. And then, like you said, JB, the championship. Do you care more about the Larry O'Brien, hoisting the Larry O'Brien trophy as opposed to the MVP trophy? But I agree. I mean, yeah, of course he's a contender for it, but I'm not going to speculate on whether he's going to win it or not. To me, it doesn't matter. I just look to see who's the best team to win the NBA and win the championship and place the O'Brien.
Hey, Candy.
The season hasn't even started, and we're talking about somebody that is an MVP. Wait, what? What? As a coach, you want to create not separatism. You want to create a team. You want to have everybody gel. You want to talk about your team as a whole, not individuals. The trophies, they'll come, they'll speak for themselves with your play. But you don't even know, and I don't want to jinx Luka. He could be injured. He could get hurt.
Right.
Something could happen, and he might not even play half the season. So is it too early? Is it too premature? Yes. By all means. You're just trying to get people to talk. You did what you wanted to do. You got people to talk about it. Now, when it's baseball season and start of the NFL season, but here we are talking about NBA.
Now, yeah, you got us talking about premature, but what do you want? We're a news organization. We have to address the good, bad, and the ugly. And this one happens to be ugly. So, all right, well, we have another topic which isn't so good either, but we have to talk about it. Ex-Raiders wide receiver Henry Ruggs III was sentenced to 3 to 10 years for a fatal DUI crash. So, Jacob, is this sentence way too light?
Yeah, but it makes me sad because as someone, this is me answering a question, as asking a question. I just want to know, and I understand, we talked about mental health, we've talked about pressures, we've talked about this stuff on Pundit, you know all that. The thing I have to ask, he's 24 years old. I just want to know, you're talking to somebody who has literally never been drunk in his life. Literally never been. I don't know what that, I've probably had 6 beers in my life. I'm just asking, what is the thrill to all this, to oversaturating yourself like that? And then there's Uber, so then that's his fault. But what does he have to think about to just have to keep constantly saturating himself over and over? And now he's going 3 to 10, which, that's the end of his career anyway. We know this part. But really, if he's been pulled over before and then he's doing this now, should be 25, but he's probably not even going to do 3 to 10. He's probably going to get a good behavior in there somewhere. But I just have to ask, Maybe I'm acting like a 10-year-old here, but I'm going to ask this. What does a multi-millionaire need to do? What is the thrill in oversaturating yourself like this over? Because you know he's done it over and over and over and over again. I just want to know this and there's more than Henry Ruggs out there. And you just have to wonder, how does this help you? That's all I have to ask.
Hey, JB.
So the fact that he was drinking, I have no issue with. You know, it's legal, and you're allowed to drink if you want to drink. People, should be more careful with drinking, and we're not talking about drinking and driving. We're just talking about drinking in general. To Jacob's point. Now, as far as the driving, that's just absurd. You're a professional athlete. You are a responsible human being, and now you've taken the life of somebody else. So no matter what the amount of time in jail is going to be, you can lock him away the rest of his life. He'll never be able to get that image out of his mind, and so he'll have to live with that forever. 3 to 10 years, to me, I was shocked. I thought it seemed like it was too light, but from what I understand, I think that was the max sentence from the article I read.
Yeah.
Based on the charges he had. I could be wrong. I read it kind of quickly.
Yeah.
But to me, it definitely seems kind of light. I know that the family and the lead had tried to get a tougher law passed after it because of the sentencing, and the Nevada legislator voted it down 2 times. Kind of sad that someone's life is only worth 3 to 10 years,
Yeah.
and I hope Ruggs got the help he's needed after this. I hope that if and when he gets out, which shouldn't be that long, obviously, that he's a better person to society, because you can't get that other person's life back. That'll be on his mind forever.
I mean, the guy was driving 156 miles an hour, and
Yeah.
this young lady was driving 43. I mean, gosh,
Yeah.
that's unbelievable. All right, George.
Yeah, I don't have too much more to add. I mean, these are sentences that are they vary by state, but I think that probably is, in today's standards, a fair in average, let's say, of 3 to 10. That being said, yeah, it definitely needs all the help he can get, and he certainly owes a lot to the society and to what he did to harm, obviously, this family of the deceased. It's just a shame that this had to happen. We see it constantly when people don't assume their own responsibility. And like you said, I mean, he shouldn't even got behind the wheel of that car. Obviously not. It's a sad, sad situation, and it only is worse because of his status. People get more attention that way because he's a football player or whatever sport he was in. Doesn't make it any better or any worse, I guess, but it does make it does make more headlines, and it brings out these situations more and more that people across America and around the world kind of drop their jaw and say, wait a minute, oh my God, really? He did that? And for nothing else, this kid is really screwed up. He's really screwed up his own life. But yeah, I do hope that he could get something out of it, salvage something. But yeah, he's really been obviously a bad apple.
Candy.
So it was a plea deal, because had he actually gone to court, he could have faced a mandatory minimum of 2 years with a conviction, and could get more than 50 years. Part of the problem is they never did a sobriety test at the scene of the accident. So there was some obstacles there to try and prove everything, because they did an illegal blood alcohol at the hospital afterwards, but that was a while afterwards. So big lesson, and this is the lesson that I try and tell everybody. You can go out drinking. I have no issue whatsoever with people going out drinking and having, but always, always, you have to have somebody that's your designated driver. I don't care where you go. I don't care if you're going to a friend's house, then stay the night if you've had too much to drink. And the problem is once you've had too much to drink, you don't think you've had too much to drink. And that's part of the problem. That's why you have to have a designated driver that says, you know what? I'm the one that's responsible. You've had too much. You might think you can drive, but your reaction time is not the same. Driving 156 miles an hour. We're not talking down the highway. We're talking down a city street. You do not know what you're doing, and you had too much to drink. I'm sorry. Between you and your friends, you have to have a designated driver. Or if you're at a friend's, you stay there. You give the keys up when you get there and you say, you know what? I'm going to be drinking. I don't know if I'm going to be able to drive it at night. So here's my keys. You hold on to them. You be the judge.
You know, the amazing part about this, I only think he's going to serve 3 years and he'll be out. That's just a feeling I have. I don't know.
Might
why.
be less.
Yeah, or less because of
Yeah.
good behavior.
Yeah, it could.
No, and that's the only thing I ask. I just want everybody to understand this. Anybody that's watching tonight, I'm not against drinking by itself. I'm like, okay, even have a nice. I'm just saying, even have a nice, relaxing a Manhattan and anything like that. Just have yourself anything you like to have, gin and tonic, any of those. That's not the thing. I just like relaxing. But I'm asking, what is it in the mind of we'll just say a kid like he is, 24 years old. What is it in the mind of somebody that says, "Oh, I want to get drunk"? Like, there's a word for it. I just say, but what gets it over and over and over and over and over again, where you want to oversaturate yourself? Is it physical pain? Is it mental pain? Is it a sense of entitlement? I have to ask that, because it's like you just killed somebody. And I just ask this over and over. You're not the badass you thought you were. You're not the tough guy you thought you were. You're not anything if you have to oversaturate yourself over and over again.
Good points.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna move on to our parting shots. Okay, Jacob, lead off.
All right. Big thing I have to say this. It's like there are Cubs fans out there, and we're going to talk about this with Confidential, but there are Cubs fans out there wondering why we keep, because Seiya Suzuki is not what he was maybe last year. Or he's not the same kind of player. Maybe he's like 260 average. And it's like, should they let him go? Blah, blah, blah. Here's the deal. It's the same, this is the same boat as Jason Hayward. He was a 220 average hitter with the Cubs, but it was his motivation that got the Cubs to help get the World Series. This is the thing. It's Seiya Suzuki that could possibly get Shohei Ohtani, because he was already talking to him on the field the one time, trying to convince him to go to the Chicago in the first place. Seiya Suzuki. There's more than the results of the game. It really is. This is a business world. You need help. This is, whether you're in real estate, whether it's everything that you can think of, it is more than just negotiation. Sometimes you just need the help. That's why you keep a Suzuki. That's why you keep a Jason Hayward well beyond his 220. Sometimes it's the intangibles, period.
Okay, JB, what's your parting shot?
Realignment in college football. What is wrong with this?
Yeah.
We're down to two ridiculously huge conferences. One that's from coast to coast at the current moment, and you have teams in the ACC that are just left out right now. They haven't done anything, so I don't know how they're going to survive against these two conglomerates. The Big 12 has added some teams, so the Big 10, they called that like the Big 107.
Yeah, right.
What happens to college basketball with all these different changes? There's a lot of issues with this, and I'm almost wondering if we should just get rid of conferences altogether. If the NCAA should just say, let's get rid of it, or if these two conferences just forego the NCAA and create their own type of league, because it's so strange to just see how these schools are just jumping ship. The Pac-12 is basically down to 4 teams at the moment, and
right.
Stanford and Cal, or Stanford maybe joining the big.
Right, you got
big
Stanford, you have
117.
Cal, Oregon State, and Washington State are the 4 that are left.
Yeah, it's pretty scary to see, and kind of sad to see this breakup the way it was, that it just happened so quickly, that everyone just jumped ship. There was no loyalty, and there's so much money there, and I get why you want to be in a position, but then you look at teams that are in some of these conferences. Your Rutgers, for example, in the Big 107. They're never going to win anything. I don't care if they have Greg Schiano back. They can have anybody coach them. It's Rutgers. They're horrible. It's not going anywhere. You got Vanderbilt in the SEC. They're never going to win anything because grades are more important than athletes. Which it's college. That's a good way to be. So it's interesting to see how this all shakes out over the next couple of years. It's going to be a lot of changes to college sports due to this crazy realignment, and it's going to affect other sports as well. You're going to have gymnastic teams flying from New York to California for conference events. It's going to cost these schools lots of money, and due to different regulations, they're going to have to pay it. So it's going to be interesting just to see what happens in the landscape of college sports.
George?
My parting shot is a good one. I want to salute our friend Rob Parker, former Detroit News, former Detroit Free Press sports writer. He got on Marge Schott's Wrong Side. Hey, everybody knows about Rob and his First Take and all these shows that he's been on. He made a big deal of it on his Facebook page, but I'm glad he did. He is a enshrinee into the Black Journalism Hall of Fame. And I congratulate you, Rob. You have mentored so many people. In fact, I really enjoyed the tribute that you posted on Facebook with many of the people that you mentored over the years. And of course, Scott, we know him from Detroit.
Right.
He's been in New York. He's been in Cincinnati. He's been in LA. And Rob is just he's a one-of-a-kind personality. He's not afraid to tell it like it is. He's got some enemies, I know, in some of these clubs. But tell you what, Rob, you've done a hell of a job. Congratulations on your Hall of Fame. And we salute you. Hats off to you, my friend, for making that Hall of Fame.
Yeah, Rob's been a good friend of mine for many, many years. The last time I saw him in person was at the All-Star game here in Miami. So, Rob, and I'll tell you, when you're on the road covering the Detroit Lions and then you set the record for futility on the road and then you're hammering Rod Marinelli, boy, that was great. At least he was doing it. None of us were getting nailed for it. So, yeah, Rob, congrats. All right, Candy, what's your parting shot?
Congratulations to the Florida Atlantic University men's basketball team. Kudos to you guys. You are going to you're going to go to Disney World for ESPN event for their Thanksgiving Day Invitational. And then you are going to go and you're going to play up in Madison Square Garden to play the Jimmy V Foundation tournament on December 5th. So congratulations to your success, because now it's paying off. That must be I can't imagine the kids, the boys that are going to be playing, they probably have a dream of theirs to play in Madison Square Garden. So kudos to the men's basketball team for FAU.
All right. I can't believe that, even though I'm a University of South Florida Bull, but I'm a Michigan Wolverine at heart, that I'm even doing this parting shot. I'm going to do it anyways, okay? Kudos to Ohio State Athletic Director Gene Smith, retiring on June 20th, 2024. Think about it, okay? The football program won a national title in 2014. It's won 10 Big Ten titles, okay, since 2005. In total, the Buckeyes have collected 32 team national championships, 117 individual titles. Prior to OSU, he's been the athletic director at Eastern Michigan, Iowa State, and Arizona State. You know what? Say what you want, but Gene Smith, to me, is unquestionably one of the best athletic directors ever. And to do the job that he's done in Ohio State is an incredible thing, and I wish him well in retirement. So, despite coming from a Michigan Wolverine, you have to give credit where it's due, and that's exactly what I am doing. All right, well, what's so nice about these earlier starts? Okay, everybody has a chance to let everybody know they get a hold of each other. So with that said, Jacob Christer, just so you know, one programming note, Pundit moves to our side of the coin tomorrow at 8 o'clock. Go ahead, Jacob.
Yeah, Sunday, I'll say this. Sundays is I'm with you with the professor and the professor and people. I've got my first show in the last week, so I'm getting used to that. Monday nights is the top rope, off the top rope with the sniper and the pundit. We're pro wrestling, sideline sports. Tuesdays off. Wednesdays here. And here for the Sports Exchange and Confidential Sideline. Thursday, Pundit. With you, Scott. We got this right here. On the in South Florida. And then from there on out, it's whatever it goes on. And it could be movies, it could be anything. I could be climbing mountains.
Okay, JB Ellis, the main man over at Sideline. Let them all know how they can get a hold of you.
JB_ the program on Twitter, Sideline Sports every Tuesday, 8:30. Watch it on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, NFL Alumni Media, and of course, Confidential coming up next.
George?
I got a book out there, Detroit Sports Broadcasters on the Air. We talk about a lot of great players. Yeah, that became broadcasters, one of which is Jim Price. Our condolences to Lisa Price and to Jim's son on the death of Jim Price, longtime Detroit Tigers announcer. And congratulations to Michael Lorenzen, a former Detroit Tiger who threw a no-hitter tonight for the Philadelphia Phillies. Thank you, Dom, for mentioning that. We appreciate that. You can reach me on Yahoo at gicorn@yahoo.com. You can read me in the South Florida Tribune under the Motor City Tribune banner. And there's a link there that Candy has to a link to purchasing my book. And also you can reach me on Twitter or X, whatever it's called nowadays, at SanGSports99. And locally, folks here can pick up the Monitor and read me. I'll be having my big Lions preview column coming up in a couple of weeks. So you can find me here inside the Pigskin, the Sports Exchange. I'm looking forward to the Pundit's Pundit tomorrow night. And obviously with the 108 Stitches with Scott and crew. So thank you.
Okay, Candy, take us home for how they can reach us as well as everything else. I've said my piece of that. You can close out the show.
Well, let's see. You can reach me. Sometimes you can see me. You never know what show Scott's got me on this week. But every once in a while, you'll see Fire Up Wisconsin, which is kind of my homegrown show. And you can always see me on 3 Chicks in a Pod or Chicks in Salsa. That's Tuesday nights at 7:30. And anytime you can see me here, we have shows inside the Pigskin. We have 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. We have No Limits. We have Real and the Rare. We have, obviously, Sports Exchange. We have Fire Up Wisconsin, Fire Up Michigan, Fire Up Florida, Fire Up. Just fire up. Now, would you please? If you want to email us, it's southfloridatribune@gmail.com. Go to our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. Read any of our articles. The article about FAU men's basketball is there. You want to read, we have quotes. If you want to listen to, the Jaguars have been sending us quotes, or the Miami Dolphins have been sending us quotes. Go to our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. The man next to me here wrote a book. It is going to be published in the next month or two. We'll have a link to it so you can buy it. Let's see what else. If you want to be a guest on our show, email us or call. Or if you want to advertise or sponsor a show, call Scott 954-304-4941. This broadcast is live on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and LinkedIn. And last but not least, if you'd rather listen to us, you can be listening to us on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google, or Apple, or wherever you get your podcast. Scott, did I forget anything?
Gosh, you did better than I did. You just went ahead and talked it over. They call her the natural. I have to go ahead and refer to this stuff because I don't have that memory. All I do is remember my book, but not the prompts. You were great, Candy. Good stuff.
Jacob, were you going to add anything?
No, Jacob's ready
Jacob's in a trance right now.
Yeah, this guy here is ready for Confidential is what he is. And the
I'll see you guys later. Take care. See you, JB, in a minute.
Wrigley Field, baby. Wrigley Field.
All right. So once again, on behalf of Jacob Christner, JB Ellis, George Eichhorn, and Candy Ebling, my name is Scott Morgan. I was saying thank you very much for joining us on the Sports Exchange. And we won't be broadcasting this show next week, but we will in 2 weeks from now. I'll be heading back to Motown for a 5-day break. So we'll see you in 2 weeks. Good night, everybody.
Good night.